What happens when the UK decides to build the most ambitious rail project in decades, but instead of being a piece of good news for the citizens, it ends up dividing the nation due to endless delays, sky-high costs, and political battles? Well, you get HS2, one of the most controversial and talked about infrastructure projects in recent history. But is it the future of transport, or just a massive train wreck waiting to happen? Stick with us till the end to find out. From government debates to massive budget hikes, today we're breaking down everything you need to know about HS2, the high-speed rail project that's taking the UK by storm, for better or worse. Alright, let's rewind the clock a bit and see how the whole idea of HS2 came about and who were the masterminds behind it. High-speed rail networks have been around for decades in countries like Japan, France, and Spain. But the UK? Well, it was lagging behind. In fact, the idea of introducing high-speed rail in the UK was first seriously floated back in the early 2000s. In 2003, the UK opened its first high-speed rail line, High Speed 1. It connected London to the Channel Tunnel, but it was just a small step. The idea of a bigger, more ambitious rail network was already brewing. Fast forward to 2009, during the Labour government under Prime Minister Gordon Brown, the Department for Transport started looking at the feasibility of a second high-speed rail line. Enter High Speed 2 Limited. This was the company tasked with turning this vision into reality. The plan was to build a new high-speed network stretching all the way from London to Birmingham, and eventually up to Manchester and Leeds, reducing travel times and boosting the economy. But when the Conservative Liberal Democrat coalition government took over in 2010, the plans were reviewed once more, followed by another round of consultations, tweaking, and route discussions. Eventually, a Y-shaped route was proposed, with one branch going from London to Birmingham and the other extending to Manchester and Leeds. Then came 2019. By this time, there were serious concerns about the cost, delays, and environmental impact of the project. The government decided it needed an independent review of HS2, which was chaired by Sir Douglas Oakervey, a British civil engineer and former HS2 chairman. The Oakervey review confirmed that HS2 was still a good idea for capacity and economic benefits, but recommended trimming costs and streamlining the design. This led to some more scaling down of Phase 2 of the project and pushing back completion dates. Behind the scenes, HS2 Limited has been the key organization responsible for the planning and delivery of the project. But it's not just about the people at HS2 Limited. Multiple governments, from Labour to Conservative, have had a hand in shaping HS2's direction. Now, as the years have gone by, the project has been mired in controversy, challenges, and some serious drama. When HS2 was first proposed, the price tag for the whole network was estimated at around $44 billion. Sounds reasonable, right? Well, fast forward a decade, and that number has ballooned to over $120 billion, and some experts believe it could hit as high as $210 billion. So why the massive jump? Everything from land acquisition costs to the challenge of building through densely populated areas has driven the price up. And don't forget inflation, delays, and of course, that ever-present British bureaucracy. HS2 has been pitched as a green project with promises to reduce car and air travel. However, critics argue that the environmental cost is too high. Thousands of acres of ancient woodland have been destroyed to make way for the tracks, and local wildlife habitats have been disrupted. Environmental groups like the Woodland Trust have been vocal about their opposition, saying HS2's benefits don't outweigh the damage to ecosystems. To make way for HS2, entire communities have been uprooted. Homes have been demolished, businesses displaced, and historical sites threatened. Many residents have accused the government of poor communication and unfair compensation. And it's not just the people living along the route. Cities like Liverpool and parts of Wales feel completely left out, saying HS2 offers them no direct benefits while they're still footing part of the bill. From the very beginning, funding has been a sore spot for HS2. The benefit-cost ratio has dropped drastically. Initially, it promised almost $3 for every $1 spent. Now, it's down to around $1.3. Even the House of Commons Public Accounts Committee slammed the project, saying it offers very poor value for money. And with Phase 2 to Manchester and Leeds now scrapped, the benefits are even harder to justify. HS2 has been a political football, with every government since 2009 either supporting or scrutinizing the project. From Labour to the Conservative Liberal Democrat coalition, and now under Rishi Sunak's leadership, decisions have been reversed, phases cancelled, and the vision watered down. In October 2023, Sunak scrapped the northern leg of HS2, promising to redirect the $44 billion in savings to other projects. Originally, HS2 was supposed to open in 2026, but thanks to delays caused by planning issues, protests, and even the COVID-19 pandemic, Phase 1 won't be operational until at least the early 2030s. And with Phase 2 now uncertain, the full network might never happen at all. Another big criticism? Transparency, or the lack of it. Reports of outdated models being used to justify the project, withheld documents, and vague promises about economic benefits that have made it hard for the public to trust what's really going on. The National Audit Office even said that HS2's cost estimates were highly uncertain, leading to fears that the project is being mismanaged behind the scenes. Despite being classified as an England and Wales project, HS2 offers very little direct benefit to Wales. Studies suggest it might even harm the Welsh economy by making England's transport links more competitive. Meanwhile, Scotland gets a partial boost but still misses out on full integration. The Welsh government has been fighting for a share of HS2 funding, arguing they deserve billions under the Barnett formula. But so far, those calls have been largely ignored. What was once hailed as the solution to overcrowded trains and regional inequality is now a hotbed of controversy. This is why we have to ask, is HS2 doomed to fail? Well, simply put, despite its challenges, HS2 is too big to fail. Billions have already been spent, and halting the project entirely could mean losing the economic and transport benefits it was designed to deliver. The question is whether we can still salvage something meaningful from it. So at this point, it's hard to say if HS2 can recover. With its scope scaled back, its costs soaring, and public trust at an all-time low, the project faces an uphill battle. But one thing is certain, Britain's transport future is at stake. But how does the UK government justify plowing ahead with it, even with the mounting costs and public backlash? The thing is, the UK's rail system is already at breaking point. Commuter trains are overcrowded, especially on key routes like London to Birmingham and London to Manchester. So the government says that without HS2, railways will grind to a halt. And it isn't just for high-speed travel, it's about relieving congestion, improving regional connectivity, and ultimately making the UK's entire transport network more sustainable. Another key justification is the economic boost. Proponents of HS2 argue that connecting the major cities will drive growth across the country, not just in London. It's about spreading economic opportunities, creating jobs, and boosting the North and Midlands. Over 100,000 jobs are expected to be created in construction alone, and cities like Birmingham and Manchester are already gearing up for major infrastructure developments around HS2 stations. Okay, but what about the delays and those ever-increasing costs? Well, the UK government acknowledges these issues but insists that HS2 is a long-term investment. Sure, it's painful now, but the benefits will be felt decades into the future. Despite the sky-high price tags and the criticisms, the government argues that this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to reshape the country's transport system and create a lasting legacy for generations to come. And another one of HS2's key justifications is its environmental impact. High-speed rail is a more sustainable option than cars and planes. HS2 is also expected to provide capacity for electric trains, which are a greener alternative to fossil fuel-dependent vehicles. So how does the UK justify all of this? Well, they argue that HS2 is not just about high-speed trains, it's about the bigger picture, boosting the economy, creating jobs, reducing congestion, and meeting long-term sustainability goals. However, one question remains: when will it actually be finished? Well, the answer is a bit complicated. First, let's talk about Phase 1, the stretch from London to Birmingham. Originally, the government hoped it would be completed by 2026, but with all the delays and complications, that target has now been pushed back. The latest estimate for Phase 1 completion is around 2031. That's 5 more years than initially planned. But the project is massive, and getting everything right is crucial. Now, when it comes to Phase 2, which includes the extension to Manchester and Leeds, well, that's an even more complicated story. The completion of this phase is slated for sometime around 2040, but like with any massive project, it could still face more delays. With Phase 2's extensive work and the huge amount of infrastructure required to connect major cities, it's going to take time to finish. Plus, there are still debates about whether all of the originally planned routes will even go ahead. So when will the entire HS2 project be completed? The UK government is aiming for full completion by 2041, but don't be surprised if this timeline gets extended even further. So there you have it. The long and winding road to HS2's completion is still ahead of us, with Phase 1 expected around 2031 and the entire project hopefully wrapping up by 2041. At least, that's the plan for now. Will HS2 meet these deadlines, or will we be talking about delays for years to come? Only time will tell, but one thing's for sure: the journey is far from over. And with the rising costs, the delays, and growing public discontent, can they really make it work? Or will HS2 go down as one of the most controversial and costly infrastructure projects in history? Let us know in the comments below, and make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more.